Hey everyone, it's Dwayna aka Glamazon1026 and welcome back to the Glam Room. Today we're going to be continuing our Back to Basics series. This is going to be eyeshadow 101, the thing that everybody asks me over and over. How do we get a good blend for our eyeshadow? We're going to break down brushes. We're going to talk about how to blend just everything that you need to get a perfect eye look. I've already done my complexion work and my brows, and I'm linking it at the top so that you guys can see how I get this flawless base. If you want to up your eyeshadow game, if you want to be able to blend like a pro, stay tuned. I don't know too many people who put on eyeshadow that don't put on some type of base. You can use an eyeshadow base like NYX eyeshadow base or MAC paint pots. You can use eyeshadow primer like this Lorac eyeshadow primer or Urban Decay's primer potion, or you can be like me and just use concealer. I really like using concealer because it helps take out any pigmentation that I have in my eyelids so that everything is nice and smooth, everything is one color, and the colors from the eyeshadow will show up better than just going directly onto my skin. It also helps so that the eyeshadow will last longer and it doesn't crack if you're doing it for long. I'm going to use my NARS Radiant Creamy Concealer in the color Chestnut, and I always use this as a base for my eyeshadow. This is the Morphe M334 brush. I'm just going to blend that out. If your eyebrows are done, you want to make sure that you don't go up too high and mess up the concealer that you already put down. There are some people who don't like setting their primer because the colors will show up better if the base is a little bit stickier. I agree with that, but I also think that you only need that if you're doing like really bright colors that really need that extra pigmentation, especially because with, you know, us black women and brown women, we have darker skin, so we might need a little bit of extra help to get those like pinks and yellows and oranges and blues to show up on our skin. But today, since I'm just doing something that is super easy, I'm going to just set this with some translucent powder, and I'm using my Beauty Bakerie yellow flower setting powder. Now that our base is set, we're going to talk about brushes. Contrary to popular belief, you do not need 50 million brushes to get a bomb eyeshadow look. You only need about 3 or 4. I'm going to give you about 7 of them just because I want you to know the different types of brushes and what you're going to be doing with each of these brushes. But honestly, you can use 3 or 4 brushes to create a great look. And I'm going to insert a picture of a look that I did for a lunch and learn on Twitter where I used 4 brushes. First, I'm going to talk about fluffy brushes. Fluffy brushes are going to be your best friends with blending. This is a brush that I got in a kit from BH Cosmetics. I always use this brush in every eyeshadow look I do. This is the brush that I use on every transition shade, and you can go back and look at all the rest of my videos. As you can see with this brush, there's a lot of bristles, but it's very easy to move around. You want a brush like this to do transition colors because your transition color needs to take up a lot of surface area. Next, we have the MAC 217. I use this for transition, and then I'll use this brush for my second transition. You don't necessarily need a second transition. I just like to add extra dimension to my eyeshadow looks. Hello?
Oh, you're taping?
Yeah, I told you I was gonna do that.
Okay.
Alright. Bye. As you can see, the MAC 217 is about the same density as the BH Cosmetics brush. They're both very pliable, easy to blend, but this one is smaller than the BH Cosmetics. And that is a good thing because the further down you go in the eye, the smaller you want your brush to get because you need more control in your placement. Next, we have this even smaller blending brush. This is another brush that I got from BH Cosmetics. This is a number 6, and I think it's called the Blush Romance Kit. This brush will go directly into the crease, and since it's smaller, it will help with placement. You don't want your crease color to go all the way up here. You don't want it to cover up the work that you did in your transition colors, so you want to get a smaller brush. I also use this brush sometimes for outer V work because it's really good to get into that outer V and inner V work. This is really good for creasing down, okay? The next brush that you'll need is a flat shader. This is the number 8 from the BH Cosmetics Blush Romance Kit, and this is just a flat, densely packed shader brush. We usually use these for lid colors. It helps you pick that color up and pat it on your lid. We also have a pencil brush. This is for detail work. If you check my Black Panther video, I use a brush like this to draw out the line for my cut crease. This brush is perfect for that because it's super precise. You can just go in there and draw exactly what you need. You can draw stars with it if you have like a liquid or a cream shadow. You can put dots on your eyes, whatever tickles your fancy. You can use this brush to do it. Last but not least, I have just this big fluffy brush. I like using this brush for blending only. This brush has never ever had any color on it since I bought it. I'm telling you this right now. If you want good eyeshadow, if you want your eyeshadow to blend, if you want it to blend, you need a clean fluffy brush that you never put color on. Ever in life, okay? Just leave it. Just keep it there to the side and use this to blend your shadow out or blend the colors together. That is like a hack. That is a hack, okay? Don't say I didn't tell you. That was the boring part. Now we're gonna get to the demo, okay? Okay. I'm going to be using the Modern Renaissance. Yes, it's dirty because I've had it for a long time and it's had a lot of use. But we're going to be using our Modern Renaissance because this palette is easily accessible. Anybody, like almost everybody has it. You can go pick it up and you can go replicate this look. You want to start with your lightest color. You're going to be working a little bit harder if you start with your darker color. It's easier to blend out a lighter color than it is to blend out a darker color. And you always want to go in with the lightest touch because you don't want to be stuck with a bunch of orange eyeshadow on your lid and you're working super hard to blend that out. It's always easier to use a little bit and then build it up than to go in really like super duper heavy and then blend that out because you'll be blending for 20 minutes. You don't need to be blending for 20 minutes, okay? Not everybody got that kind of time. People have jobs, people have kids, people have rehearsals. We ain't got time for that, okay? So start with a little bit and build up to the intensity that you want. Hold your brush at the end of the brush handle. If you hold up here, it's going to be like you're pressing into your skin and you're gonna get harsh lines and it's not gonna look cute. You don't want that. The closer you hold it to the ferrule, which is this metal part right here, the worse your eyeshadow is gonna look. We have that burnt orange, right? We tapped it off and we're just gonna go in and add that color to my transition. Your transition shade is a shade that you are going to use so that it doesn't look like skin eyeshadow. We don't want that. That's ugly, okay? I usually place my transition color right above my socket. You want it to fade with a gradient. You want it to fade out into the concealer color. You just build that color up until it's at the intensity that you want. I'm gonna go in with that Morph M504 and I'm just going to blend the top so that it has a really nice transition into your brow bone. Next, we're going to pick up our MAC 217 and we're going to go in with Realgar. We are going to put it below the transition color. It's going to be almost directly into the crease. It's not going to be the crease color yet because we're still using a bigger, fluffier brush. So we're just going to put it right here. And I'm using windshield wiper motions because that is how you get the color to travel from one side of your eye to the other side of your eye. You want to just keep adding more and more Realgar until you figure out the intensity that you want. Your brush. So this brush has Realgar on it, right? We're going to tap it into burnt orange because that's the other color that we use. And we're going to use both of those colors that's on this brush to blend between the two colors so that they have a nice transition. It's like the perfect mixture of those two colors. And so this will help us to have no harsh lines. See? Look at that. Seamless. A good way to tell if your eyeshadows blended together is to look down. If I'm looking down, I'm able to see that there's a patch right here that needs to be blended out. And I can use either the fluffy brush with nothing on it to blend that out, or I can use the brush that has Realgar and then I dip it in burnt orange to blend that out. We're going to switch brushes again. This is just for demonstration purposes. We're going to go to that even smaller brush. What we're going to do is we're going to tap into red ochre. This is going to be our crease color. Then we're going to go directly into the crease. As we go lower and lower, it gets darker and darker. This helps with dimension, this helps with transition, it helps it look more natural. And we're gonna build that color up until I get it to exactly where I want it. As you are blending, you're going to notice that some of the burnt orange was covered up by the Realgar and some of the Realgar is covered up by the red ochre. That's what we want. We want it to be seamless. You want it to get from light to dark. That is how it's going to be seamless. I don't want this going all over my eyelids, so I'm closer to the ferrule because I need to be precise with where I put this color. Now, just like we did with the other brush, we're going to dip back into Realgar, and we're going to use that to blend Realgar and red ochre together. We're going to use the same brush that we used red ochre, and we're going to go in with Cypress Umber, just a little bit on it, and we are going to put that in our outer V. Now, for our outer V, I'm going to use a different brush movement because you don't want it to be as concentrated, so you move in circles. And if we look down, you see that nice gradient. Again, you have dark, and then we get lighter as we go out. And even though the line is still a little bit harsh, we can just use the brush to blend it a little bit more so that it's not as harsh right there. It's a fine balance, blending and over blending. I don't know the exact formula. You just know when your eyeshadow is blended good and you're like, stop. Or when you can go a little bit more. It's something that comes with practice. It's something that comes with time. I feel like even though I've been doing makeup for the past like 4 years, I haven't really gotten super good at eyeshadow until like last year sometime. Like, no, it was the year I got married. So fourth quarter 2016, not even like for my bachelorette party or my bridal shower. No, I wasn't blending well back then. But I feel like now I'm really understanding when it's time to stop and when I need to keep going. When I first started, I had no idea what anybody was talking about. I watched so many so many YouTube videos, so many Pinterest videos, and people would be like, and now we're just gonna blend together, and now we're gonna go back into this, we're gonna do that, and they would never tell me why. So I would like, why am I doing this? And then my eyeshadow would look ugly. I don't want your eyeshadow to look ugly. So I'm explaining to you exactly why I'm doing what I'm doing when I'm doing it. Okay? All right. We're going to use shimmers on the lid, and I'm going to come up here and get closer to you so that I can tell you. Never, ever, ever use a shimmer in your crease. That is ugly and people will talk about you. So we're going to use Antique Bronze, which is a dark, I don't know, it's like a dark brown, purpley shade, and I'm going to use that on my lid. Now, when I say don't use a shimmer in your crease, I mean don't use that as like a crease shade to blend out. That looks like you're in the 80s. It looks terrible. Don't do that. We are moving on to bigger and better things. Do not do that. Now, for people like me who have hooded eyes, or I don't really have a full hood, I have a fold in my eye, you want to bring your shimmer up a little bit above the fold so that when you open your eye, you still see the lid color. Jasmine Schofield, she is somebody that I follow on YouTube and Twitter. I got this tip from her and I've been using it recently because it's amazing. I don't remember which video it was that she put it on, but I'll put her page down below. Flip your brush upside down. The part of the brush that is closest to your lid does not have any powder on it, but the bottom does. So it's deepening up this bottom color down here, but it's not deepening up the top. It's just blending that out. And that is, like, seriously, that trick blew my mind. And I was just like, I don't even do that. And I'm pretty good at blending. But it's just, it was amazing. I was like, thank you, Jasmine. I'm going to use that now. So thank you, Jasmine. And now all 110 of my followers can use that. Since Antique Bronze is so, it doesn't add any lightness to this look. I wanted to keep it pretty light. I am going to go in with Primavera on that same flat shader brush. And I'm just going to tap it over Antique Bronze. This is just going to lighten that up. We're finished with the upper lid. We're about to move to the lower lid, and that's going to be infinitely easier than the top because all we're doing is repeating the same exact steps. This is where our detailing brush comes in. Because we have this darker color on our outer V, we want to bring that down to our lower lid, but we want to keep that as tight and as close to the lash line as possible. That's why this detailing brush is important. We want to blend this dark color out. We want it to look as nice and blown out as the upper lid does. This is my MAC 217. I'm going to dip it into Realgar and I'm going to dip it into red ochre because we use both of those color up top. And I'm going to just look down and I'm going to just bring that all over here. I don't even worry about placement. I kind of like it really big right now. That's just my aesthetic. If you want it to be a little bit more precise, you should use a brush that is a little bit more densely packed. This brush came in the Anastasia Beverly Hills. This came in it, and if you want, you can use a brush that's about this density to do the same exact thing one by one. Just bring that color down and blend that brown out. This helps give you a nice oval look. It helps, like, doing the lower lash just helps the eye look it just helps the eye look complete. I love it. You can put on a brow bone highlight if you want. I usually use whatever highlighter I'm using that day. Right now I have Le Peach. I think it will look really nice. I think it will complement well. You just put that on the highest point of your brow. Do not bring it in here. Don't do that. Don't do that. Do not do that. Okay guys, this is the finished look. I'm so happy you guys stuck with me. I know that, you know, this is one of my longer videos. I think right now, as I'm thinking about editing, I'm thinking that this is going to be one of my longer videos because there's so much information in it. And so I'm going to recap everything for you just so that you have like a nice quick snapshot of things that you need to remember when working with eyeshadow and brushes. First one is to make sure that you prime your lid. If you set it with a translucent powder or if you set it with a skin tone eyeshadow, it doesn't matter. If you don't want to set it because you want to use those bright bold colors, that's good, but make sure that you prime it. It just helps the eyeshadow last longer. It helps it stick. It helps it not to crease. It helps it not to flake. Like, as you can see, like, I have a fold in my lid, but there are no creases in my shadow, and that is because I prime. So always make sure that you prime. The second rule is to make sure that you have the correct brushes. Make sure that you always have a fluffy blending brush, a smaller, denser packed brush, a flat shader brush, a detail brush, and that fifth brush, which is the brush, the big fluffy blending brush that you do not put any powder on. If you feel like something is not blending out right and you don't want to add more product, you always have that fifth brush there that has no product on it to just blend everything together. Rule number 3 is to hold your brushes correctly. Remember, the further away you are from the ferrule, the less control you have over where the brush is going, but the more control you have over the eyeshadow, and that's really important. The closer you get to your crease or the more detail work you're doing, then you want to hold it up here to the ferrule. But if you're not, if you're just blending everything out together, you want to hold it down here. Fourth rule is to use your bigger brushes towards your brow line and the smaller brushes closer to your lid. The reason is simple. You have more surface area out towards your brow and you have a smaller space closer to your lash line. So you do not want big brushes taking up all the space down here. Rule number 5 is to start with the lightest color up at the top and work your way down to your darkest color. Use the darkest color in your outer V. Rule number 6 is to blend. Make sure that you are blending. If you are not blending, your eyeshadow will not look good. Remember that look down trick. When you look down, you're able to see the diffusion better as opposed to looking straight ahead. You really can't see anything. You want to make sure that you open your eye up so that you see all the space that you have and all the, if there's any patchiness, if anything is wrong, you want to be able to make sure that you can see it. Look, I hope this video helps break down eyeshadow and makes it a lot less scary for people because I'm telling you what I did and why I'm doing them. Hopefully this video helps you. If it does, leave me a little comment in the bottom and tell me what your favorite part was, what you learned, what kind of was mind-blowing to you, or maybe not even mind-blowing. What is something that you learned that you didn't know before that you're going to try and implement in your upcoming looks? If you have any more questions, please feel free to ask them below, or you can ask me on Twitter, Snapchat, or Instagram at Glamazon1026. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in my next video.